From Julio Cruz and Gaylord Perry to Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds to father and son back to back bombs. From Junior J, Joey, and Edgar with Randy, A-Rod, Dan, and the Sheriff to Ichiro Moyer and Mikey C to King Felix, Kyle Cruz, and Cano to the present with Julio, Gilbert, Kirby, and Cal. I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my, it's another sports podcast. My, oh my, it's another sports podcast. My name is Ty Talks 24. I want to give a huge shout out to our producer, Indy. We can't do it without him working the ones and twos. Another giant shout out to my co host and main man, RG, is unable to make it with us tonight, but I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled to rep the Mariners from Nashville to Albuquerque to Lake Stevens and everything in between. I got my friend, you've heard him here before when you're trying to make sense of the Mariners 2023 season where we came up 2 games short. But Erik Neal, what's up, my friend?
Hey, thanks for having me back, man. I'm looking forward to talking a little more M's again.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, if y'all want to know what it's like to be a delivery driver and a diehard Mariners fan, I'm going to keep it private because of our customers' confidentiality. But me and Erik Neal here, we both know exactly what
Oh,
address we were at 2 seasons ago when Jordan Alvarez broke everybody's hearts with a walk-off home run in a game I thought the Mariners were for sure going to win. It turned the tides of the ALDS series. Bro, I'm walking across this residential street and I almost fell to my knees in just utter disappointment. Thank goodness it was a quiet residential road, man, because I would have gotten plowed over if I was on a main street for that one.
man, when you were loading up for that, I knew exactly where you were going. And I'm just picturing how I was standing, what house I was at. Luckily, I was getting out. Didn't have to cross the street, but I just stood there for probably in real time a good 2 minutes. And if you just stand for 2 minutes and don't do anything, it feels like an eternity. I just kind of stood there going, you got to be kidding me. Like Alvarez, of all guys, just the killer. Like, oh, yes, I know exactly where I was at.
Well, it was also a losing week so far for the Mariners. My great friend I've known my entire life, Keith Adams, was on us last week, and he was talking some shit about the Twins, and I reminded him this is the hottest team in baseball. It's a 4 game series on the road. Don't be surprised if they beat us 3-1. That's exactly what they did, Erik. But the key to a winning team in baseball is you're gonna lose. You're probably gonna lose a couple times in a row. You gotta stop the bleeding. You gotta bounce back. We got thoroughly embarrassed on a Thursday day game, 11-1, but we traveled from Minneapolis all the way back to Seattle. And that very next night, we kicked the shit out of the A's and win 8-1. Talk to me about the Twin Series, but also I just want to point out the resiliency of a good ball club to put the embarrassment behind them, bounce back, and get the job done.
Well, I'll start with the Twin Series because I believe I think right before we played them, they snapped a 12-game winning streak. I mean, these guys aren't scrubs. They're good. And even if it's not names we don't aren't quite as familiar with, that you can't sleep on them. And first game was close. The bats went quiet, which unfortunately they've done quite a few times this year. Game two, Cal has the monster grand slam. Now they did come back to tie it, and then the bats woke up again, end up winning 10-6. Great. Another close game. And then, our pitching has been great, but Logan didn't have it that game, and oh my goodness gracious, it showed. And I hope, I know we haven't gotten there yet, but I hope at some point during the season, if we have one of our stud starting pitchers have an off night, which is going to happen, we're all human, it happens, that we can all of a sudden bludgeon back and come back like, oh, they got five on us in the first. Okay, we're going to get six on you in the second. Hopefully that'll
Mhm.
happen. It's a long season. We'll see what happens. But the frustrating part about that fourth game was we had an opportunity to split a series with a very good team on the road and just got railroaded, just got destroyed. But then coming back this weekend with the Oakland A's series, it was very, very nice to see them get off the mat, win that first game, because traditionally that's not a game the Mariners, I won't say win, but just inspire some confidence, show
Mhm.
some goodwill. Like they actually got up off the pitch great hit. It was a great first step to being like baseball is, okay, we had a bad game, wipe it off. We have 162 of them. You can go 0 for 4 for three strikeouts. Next game, 3 for 4 with two home runs. So work towards that. So it was very nice to see him get up off the mat and get a series win finishing today. So it was a very nice bounce back after the Twin Series, which was a little bit of an eye opener, but it's one series, it's a very long season. Got to keep going.
Absolutely. And speaking of that Friday night game, I gotta give a big old Brian. Woo!
Yes.
Because that dude, you always wonder when a guy's making his first major league start after being injured. He was embarrassing AAA hitters, which I would kind
Mm.
of expect from a pitcher of his status, but to come back up to the major leagues that quickly and look like an absolute stud. The A's are not chopped liver. We're only what, 3 games better than them,
Oh,
basically.
they're 500. Yeah.
Yeah, feisty bunch, and
Mm.
I'm actually kind of proud of Oakland just from a sports perspective. We know they're about to move. We know their
Agreed.
owner doesn't give a shit. The fans are in flux, and Eric, we totally get where they're coming from, and I'll never tell a fan how to feel or how to act because we had our NBA team stolen from us. And at the time that they moved to
Yeah.
Oklahoma, they were the only pro team that had won a championship.
Yeah.
Oklahoma stole our only championship team at the time. So I'm not going to tell A's fans that they need to show up. I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong for staying home. Just do what you feel as a fan. But mad respect because those guys are playing some salt and vinegar baseball right now. Um, I have a bunch of notes here about some positives from the hitters because me, RG, and my boy Keith basically spent last episode trashing the Mariners hitters. It's not like it's completely undeserved,
I was gonna
but
say rightfully so.
there's always a little bit of hope somewhere if you look into it. Is there any because we know what the pitching's done. The pitching saved our asses over and over and over again. Yeah, they got clobbered what 2 out of the last 4 games, but I look at Minnesota, I believe there was like 3 or 4 unearned runs out of the first 4 or 5, and then they did a wonderful job attacking on. You're down like 5-1. You feel like you could come back, but that's where good teams tack it on, put it out of reach, and now you're playing for tomorrow. But long-winded way of asking you, Eric, who in the lineup have you been impressed with so far this year?
Rojas. Rojas. I, I well, I should say two. Rojas and Cal.
Hmm.
Rojas and Cal. Rojas has been when Crawford went out, and I know he wasn't doing great, but I know he's still in a bit of a platoon situation at third. But my God, the guy has just been steady Eddie, delivered, great batting average, gets on base, good fielding. I don't want to sleep on Arias too much, but I kind of want to see Rojas in a little bit more of an everyday role because he's kind of given
Hmm.
you no reason not to see him in an everyday role. And then Cal, I know it's been a minute. Is it time to put the C on Cal's jersey?
Yeah.
I know Veritek had it, and I know JP was the heartbeat, but Cal keeps. It seems like he keeps everybody like he is he's the veteran now.
Mhm.
He's the guy people are going to look to and go, okay, like, is it time to put that C on like Veritek had, like Jeter had? Like, I don't see a lot of them anymore, but I think it might be time to bring it back for Cal because I think it would be a very big symbolism for him. Because I mean, I don't want to rag on J Rod too much. Clutch has not been his middle name. Cal Raleigh, it seems like any big hit the last 2 3 years has been Cal Raleigh. I mean, the big dumper is delivered when you needed him. So Rojas is my not as obvious
Mhm.
answer, and Cal is a little bit more of the obvious answer. The fact that he's doing it from the right side, also just destroying people from the right side, like, oh, it's been beautiful. So those have been my two kind of standouts to start with.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I love too is because just from the eye test or the radio test, because I'm sure you're like me, and when you
Yep.
work a lot of overtime, we get a lot of the radio version, which I absolutely love. Baseball is still beautiful on the radio. But what I love is the analytics and the eye test both say that Cal and Rojas have been the two best players on the team positionally. I'm looking at
Mm,
Rojas, dude, and I'm kind of put you on to this website baseballsavant.com where if you want to dig
yes.
into the weeds, this is the spot. So this is what I love about baseball. I'm looking at Josh Rojas, bro. He has a week. He's in the second percentile for bat speed, but who the hell cares? Because
I
he
was gonna
also
say.
is in the 99th percentile in sweet spot rate, and he's in the 90th percentile for chase rate, which leads him to a 347 average and a 926 OPS, bro. It's all about just making contact and making solid contact. That bat speed is more for the scouts, I would say,
Mm.
and maybe all of us have seen Moneyball, maybe read the book, but that's where he was like, bat speed. It sounds nice. Well, does he hit? And so I guess that's my point. And I know you're a Mariners fan going back, Eric. It looks like
Mm.
Josh Rojas might be our next Mark Macklemore type I've been touting.
Ooh.
And they've been doing it because we need Urias to get some at bats because he
Do yeah.
has the track record to get going and be a positive player on the ball club. But I saw Rojas playing a solid left field. I saw him make a couple fantastic plays at second base the other day. We know what he's doing at third. Mark McLemore played every day on that 116 win ball club, never the same
Everywhere.
position. We got to get Rojas in the lineup. We don't have enough good hitters to leave a guy like that out. So maybe tell me what you think. Can Rojas be not a utility guy, but the everyday player that can play anywhere, which is invaluable in my opinion?
Yeah, he's earned his playing time. He's absolutely earned it. For the guys who be like, well, you got to go out and earn it. He's earned it. You know, new age Ben Zobrist. You know, the guy who played
Oh,
everywhere. He played a lot of left field, but then he would go to second base. He would and fill in wherever guy needed a day off. Um, has he, Ty? I don't know this. I don't remember. Has he played shortstop at all since JP's been out?
I have not seen him play
I
shortstop
haven't
at
seen it
all.
either.
And that's
Oh,
why I don't think they want him at shortstop because we brought up that really old rookie Revis from AAA.
oh yeah,
But
yeah,
to
yeah.
me,
That's true.
that's my sign that they're not going to put him there. Otherwise, because yeah, Revis is an old AAA player, so you really only bring him up if you think that's your
Yeah,
option.
and
Other, I mean, Dylan Moore has done well though too,
he's
so
done
I'll give him
very
props.
well. He's made a couple plays where I was, he's made a couple plays over there. I'm like, okay, you can handle yourself because I always figured Dylan Moore. I was really hoping for him to be the Marco Macklem, but
Mm,
Rojas, he's definitely earned his playing time. And with our offense struggling the way it has, you can't leave him out of lineup. You got to put him in somewhere. It's a good problem to have that one guy is hitting so well. It's like, well, we want to get this guy at bats, but we can't actually keep this guy out of the lineup.
mm.
So I think he's absolutely earned his playing time. I know there's some defensive questions with Mitch Haniger. I don't know if you could put him out there, maybe in, if he starts a game or is he's a sub in. And he's been hitting well enough. Now I know he doesn't have the power of Mitch, but he also doesn't have the age and health issues of Mitch either.
Mhm.
I know he's played good left field, played good. Yeah, he's earned his playing time. I want to see him in the lineup personally because at this point, why would you not?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's funny that we kind of just mentioned, and a lot of it is just from the eye test as fans, but you dig into the weeds a little bit, bro. The
Hmm.
top three players in wins above replacement, the war stat. Cal at 1.4, Rojas at 1.2, and the shocker Dylan Moore at 1.0. So from an analytical standpoint, Cal, Rojas, and Demo have been the best players on the team so far, and kudos to them because Lord knows we have some players in the middle of the lineup that are not performing at the level that we need to. But I just want to go into Demo a little bit here. He is in the 70th percentile for hard hit rate, in the 98th percentile in sweet spot rate, 86th percentile in chase rate, and 70th percentile at walk rate. So a huge reason it's sounds so simple. I'm not going to downplay it because these pitchers are filthy nowadays. The stuff
Yeah.
they're delivering is insane. But Rojas and Dylan Moore are swinging at the most strikes of any guys on the team, and it's correlating to them being two of the best players on the team so far. And then I just want to jump into Cal, the big dumper.
Mm.
Bro, this guy is sixth in all of Major League Baseball in average exit velo. He is literally top 10 in hitting the ball hard consistently. He's on pace for like 35 to 40 home runs. You talk about the clutch factor. The only win against the Twins this week, down by two, pinch hitting, freaking grand slam. Where's our boy Dave Niehaus? My oh my,
Uh,
it's another
uh,
sports podcast.
mm, mm.
Grandma, get out the rye bread and mustard. And then to top it off, Cal is, I'm looking at this, 98th percentile in average exit velo, 99th percentile in barrel rate, 99 percentile in hard hit rate, and 91st percentile in frame rate. They can tell me whatever they want, but I don't know if there's a better two-way catcher in baseball right now.
How has he not been an all star yet? Like, it's just criminal. Couple things. When you mentioned my oh my, I can still picture Edgar pumping his fist around first base to second base when the first time he did the rye bread and mustard. Glorious.
uh,
Cal needs to be an all star this year.
yeah.
He has absolutely deserved it. That I, he gets mad when he doesn't get to play, like the pinch hit day where he hit the grand slam. He was frustrated that he wasn't playing. It's like, dude, we need you the whole season. I
Mm,
love that Cal's killing it. Now, the other part, when you had mentioned Rojas and Demo as the other best war guys, kudos to them. That's a problem.
yeah.
If they are your, if they are your next guys, I love them. Don't get me wrong. I want them to do well. I mean, they're two guys you root for, but when you look up and down the lineup, if those are your next two guys, like, okay, shoot, no wonder our offense has been struggling the way it has. They're great, but you want them to be the complementary pieces. You want them to be the, tie it all together. You want them to, after you've gone through the core of your lineup, and then these guys come up and you're like, oh my gosh, I still have to be careful. Oh gosh, I still have to be careful. I love that. I love a guy that makes contact. I want you to make contact, put the pressure on the other team to make a mistake. Everything's moving so fast nowadays. These guys are so fast. Well, okay, maybe not Cal and France, but they're so fast. Everything happens so quickly that I feel like you have a better chance. Just make them make a mistake, but you can't make them make a mistake unless you hit it in play.
Mm-hmm.
Rojas and Demo have been doing that. They've been getting it in play. Demo is one of the faster guys, maybe in the league. Like he could probably be put up against most of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember when Billy Hamilton was doing his thing. It's like, well, yeah, but he doesn't get on base that much. Yeah, when he does, it's great. But Demo's really showing some. He's showing that he needs to stay around also, which is another one of those good problems to have. But I love that. Yeah, Cal needs to be an all-star. And I guess my message to anybody is take the 5 minutes, take the 30 seconds, take whatever time you have on a lunch break, a break, whatever, and vote for Cal to get to the all-star game this year. Because my goodness, when you look up and down the catchers in the MLB, there are good ones. I'd take Cal over any of them. At least on the same level. He is one of those players that we have who's on the same level as any all-star on any team. To me, personal.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'll go as far to say that Cal can run for president, and I'd vote for him.
Oh, in a heartbeat, dude.
It's funny though, and it kind of is frustrating at the same time because you made such a poignant comment there, dude,
Hmm.
about our middle of the lineup hitters not producing, and that is a major problem long term.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in any sport at any level that your best players have to play like your best players. And I'm looking Haniger in terms of WAR minus point 0.7, France minus point 0.5, Garver minus point 0.4, and Polanco minus point 0.1. Those guys are supposed to be raking, doing damage, and being winning difference makers, and they're
Mm,
all playing worse than an average replacement player. So obviously, those guys all need to pick it up. Luke Rayleigh has quietly busted his average up to 240. I think we're going to see him get a lot more at bats. If you look at his splits from last year, they're startling. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I remember thinking to myself, "Yikes, this guy is really going to only hit against righties," and that's fine. You know, we don't have the 97 Mariners or the '01 Mariners lineup right now. So we'll just have to deal with that platoon situation in multiple positions. And then there's a huge elephant in the room that a lot of people are talking about, Eric, and we might as well jump into it. And
oh
that
boy.
is the biggest star is Julio Rodriguez, obviously. And
Oh.
so it's been somewhat of a tough season for him so far. He did have a home run and a double on Sunday. The double was almost a home run. There's like
There
13
was.
miles an hour wind blowing in. So on most days it would have been two bombs. But before he even had that big day today, Eric, I
Mm,
decided to go into the Google Statcast to really try to give myself an idea what's going on with J Rod. For starters, there's always going to be strikeout in his game. There's going to be strikeout
yeah.
in most hitters' games in today's era of baseball. We're not Tony Gwynn ain't walking through that door anytime soon.
Oh.
But I'm looking at
Anywho.
Julio Pro. I'm looking at him. His
Mm,
hard hit rate is 12% higher than the league average. His average exit velo is in the 91st percentile, which is 24th in baseball, and it also is the highest average exit velo Julio has had in his entire career. And I couple that with he's 214th in average launch angle. Dude, he's coming. He's coming. And we know that Julio, when he struggles, he's going to strike out and hit ground balls. Now,
mm,
everyone that might listen often is like, well, what are you talking about? You bitch about launch angle all the time. I bitch about when you're just beholden to trying to play slow pitch softball out here. This is baseball. You need to manufacture runs. And what I'm getting at is if you look behind the basic batting average that you would see in the newspaper, Julio is hitting the ball hard at a more consistent rate than he ever has in his career. The tear, the hot streak, and the all-star level performance is around the corner. And before I toss it to you in the low block, bro, I just want to give people an idea of how great Julio has been playing center field this year. He has dropped a couple at the wall, but he gets to balls that nobody else can, and that's the difficulty in which those plays are in some of the deep gaps of right and left center field, but he's 98th percentile in fielding range, 90th percentile in arm strength, and 98th percentile in sprint speed. This dude, at least when he is struggling, doesn't carry it into the field. And I ain't gonna ever say anyone's Griffey Jr., but he's giving me some Mike Cameron vibes, and that's good enough for me.
Oh, I like that. Ooh, that's a good one. And the funny thing is, Julio, he's had, I mean, what was it before this series? He's had five extra base hits all year, one home run before this series. Funny thing is, he was leading the Mariners in batting average. It was some old school stuff at 255, which, not exactly great, but it's doing it. He was leading the Mariners in hits overall with 41. He's getting hits. It's just, it's not damage.
Mm, hmm
It's not damage and it's not at the right time, which I would like to see eventually over time him be a little talk to Cal more, get a little bit of that clutch, get a little bit more of that. But clutch is not exactly something you can teach. When you talk about Jeter and Ortiz, you think clutch in the playoffs.
hmm
Alex Rodriguez, not so much. It's not exactly something you can teach, and I hope it's just over time. And sometimes, like you said, you hit a ball, you hit a screamer right at someone. It's baseball. It happens. Julio is coming around. He's been a slow starter most of I mean, I remember his rookie year, he was getting some of the worst ball strike calls we'd seen in a while. Thanks, Angel. But there's been had to. He's had some unluck, but I mean, he's getting hits. He's got an average. It just hasn't been the power and damage. Now today he had like you said, he had a home run, and his second one, what? It hit the yellow stripe on the top of the wall. I mean, it was inches. It's coming. Is it part of playing in Seattle? Cold weather? I don't know. There's a lot of cold weather teams. It's a little bit of that. Now, Ty, I don't know if you've listened to this. That Teoscar has mentioned the batter's eye this last week.
hmm
Have you
hmm
guys touched on that at all? How he says it's at an angle and he could never square it up with the pitcher. He never felt like he was in line. I remember Beltre saying something similar, like he could never quite line it up. I'm like, but if you play here, it feels like you would adapt. Now, easy for me to say. It feels like you would adapt eventually to the lines, but I don't know. I don't know if that has something to do with it because, and I wonder if he's going to be a Kyle Seager where month of April, just don't look at it and don't start looking at him until about middle of May because then all of a sudden
hmm
switch flips. I mean, I remember Kyle Seager would have one good week. I mean, a good week where he was the best player in baseball for about 7 to 10 days, which was scary. And all of a sudden, that was his stat correction, and then carried it the rest of the year. I can't help but wonder if Julio will go down that line. I hope not. I hope it's more a year, but you never know.
Well, if Major League hitters of Teoscar Hernandez is saying that affected them, then it obviously is because that guy's
I
a
think so.
masher. Is he going to strike
Yeah.
out 200 times a year? Absolutely. Absolutely
Mm.
strikeouts in his game, but the guy's a masher. We saw it in the playoffs 2 years ago when you were just talking about that run where he had two home runs in one game at Toronto. The guy mashes. There's no question.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. But also, your ballpark, the other team has to play under the same conditions. And so, according to Google StatCast, T-Mobile Park is dead last in terms of park factor helping hitters, and it's really not even close. T-Mobile's easily the hardest stadium to hit in. And then I decided let's go a little past Google StatCast, and I just took two of our best young pitchers, for example, in what T-Mobile can do. Because remember, like I said, it goes both ways. Logan
Mm.
Gilbert this year on his home away splits, he's given up 23 hits and 5 home runs on the road. He's given up 11 hits and 1 home run at home.
Oh
George
wow.
Kirby, 29 hits on the road, 4 home runs on the road. Kirby with 19 hits and only one bomb at home. So we're talking you know, 25% to 20% um difference. I mean, it's
Yeah.
actually I guess it would technically be an 80% increase in terms of home runs on the road versus
Yeah.
home. So the Google Statcast analytics say that T-Mobile's the toughest to pitch in. I'm looking at a 1 to 5 home run difference in home and away for Gilbert, 1 to 4 for Kirby. So just kind of doing a little digging there. There is validity to it, but that's the thing though, is your ballpark is your ballpark, and it the stats are telling me that it's also helping our pitchers. So I don't know
Mm.
what we actually do about it per se, except for the batter's eye does bug me a little bit, but both teams have to compete in the same ballpark. And what I'm saying is it hurts our hitting, but it looks like it's helping our pitching.
Man, even the young kids, the pitchers have been absolutely unbelievable. Better than expected because going into this year, it was going to be the pitching that kind of carried us. That was going to be what you leaned on.
Hmm.
One, two, three looked great. Four, five, you had high hopes for. I mean, Wu was a little bit unproven. Uh, Bryce Miller added the splitter to take care of lefties, which has been pretty effective. A little bit of a rough outing the other day, but to be expected.
Yeah.
I know you touched on Wu because he had his first start after coming back. His fastball is just beautiful. I'm curious how he does with lefties because you had Bryce Miller add a splitter. He didn't add anything. He said he changed his mentality to not overcomplicate it and just attack them. He's got that wipeout slider for righties. Okay, so I'm curious how he does with lefties this year. Pitchers are always kind of tweaking, always kind of adding something. And pitching is obviously what they drafted for a long time. I mean, kind of since Dakota's been here, that's been their main draft focus. I still remember when Kirby, Hancock, like these guys got drafted.
Hmm.
So that's obviously been their focus, as it should be, especially with the park being the way it is. But the hitters, when you play here, yes, it should be frustrating for an opposing team. Oh gosh, okay, I'm here for 3 games, but then I'm out of here. Baseball's a very mental, it can kind of resemble golf. Sometimes you can kind of get in your own head. And I can't help but wonder if a guy like Teo, when he was here for that year, it got in his head that he was going to stare at that batter's eye for 81 games. I don't know. It's just one of those questions that I don't know if anyone will ever be able to answer, but you would think with guys who are here year after year after year that while it might not be ideal, that you kind of for lack of better, just you get used to it. It's what it is. You're like, okay, I know what I'm walking into. Because I don't want to use Ichiro because that's just cheating. But I mean, that guy could slap anything and then just outrun you. But
Yep.
we've had hitters have success here. So I don't know. Shoot, even that 0-1 team. I mean, everyone was able to hit doubles. It felt
They
like
were
everyone was
matching.
just a. It felt like everyone was a doubles machine. Just okay. I'm just going to hit it off the wall here. Just hit it off the wall there, and just
Mhm.
kept the line rolling. But that was also a time before Moneyball really kicked in, and
Mhm.
that's kind of why I like contact so much is make them make a mistake. So
Yep.
hopefully over time, but it's been a while.
Oh, absolutely. God, you got me so much food for thought there, man. My brain's spinning. I'm okay. Okay, let's settle down. Let's call the play here.
Mm,
Number one. Number one. N- So many good points. I'm gonna start with you were saying about a long-term Mariner getting used to the ballpark,
mm,
and my mind's playing tricks on me, that sort of thing. And we talk about some of the new hitters having the tougher adjustments. And I think you're spot on. I'm going to go to last season. My wife and I went to the Mariners game, and it was probably only the second or third Sunday of the season. And AJ Pollock drilled the shit out of 2 balls to left field
yeah,
and back against the wall, out, back against the wall, out. and we were actually, it was the best seats I'd ever sat in before. We were only a few rows behind the dugout, and you know me, like I could see it, and you could just see it in his body language, like you've got to be shitting me. That's a home run and 29
He
other
crushed it.
ballparks
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, and so I'm just yelling, hey, "It's all good, AJ. It's all good, AJ." But he was a newcomer. He was a slugger. It did not work out here. Maybe it wouldn't have worked out anywhere, but you could just see in his body language that he was dejected, bummed, and frustrated that he got all of it and it didn't go out in an April ball game in Seattle. And then I know Mitch Haniger has been here before, but three
Mm,
of the four guys I told you that were underperforming
mm.
our first year was Seattle this year. And
Okay.
so I really believe that their mind is playing tricks on you, and you obviously need to overcome it. Some of these guys like Polanco and Mitch Haniger are paid between like 13 and $80 million a year, so no one's gonna feel sorry for them. But there is the level of compassion. No one wants to suck at their job. No one wants to do worse than they feel that they should. And as a sports fan, you really have a vested interest in come on, guys, we need to get this shit going. Now, I'm going to turn even further back to what you were talking about because I pulled
Mm.
it up out of curiosity. You're right. Julio 255 doesn't seem great, but in today's era, it's so funny because 255 is vastly better than when we were younger, and it's just the
Yeah.
era. So the Mariners have a team average that sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We, we're tied for 25th. So there's only three teams with a worse batting average than us because there's three at the same. But we're as a team we're hitting 222.
Oh,
Disgusting. 222. But I just want to put that in comparison right now. The LA Dodgers super lineup is only
yeah.
hitting 264. The best
Huh.
team in baseball with Otani, Betts, Freddie Freeman, and all those other dudes is only hitting 264 right now, which would have probably been middle of the road when we were young
Mm.
men and kids
Yeah.
and teens,
Absolutely.
etc. So part of it is just the era that we're in between the pitching, the analytics, the ultimate outcome, et cetera, et cetera. But that was such a great point. 255 is not as crappy as we thought it was way back when. And part of it is just the times that we are living in as a
One out of
baseball
four.
community. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, we could just keep on going forever with this thing,
Uh,
man. I just want to get your quick overview. Mariners, first place. I
yeah.
have to admit, our division kind of sucks because if we were in any other American League division, we would probably be in third to fourth place, depending on the other two divisions. But all you got to do is make the playoffs one way or the other. At 22 and 19, oh, Mariners fans, I'm gonna go for it here. That's
Oh boy.
53.7%. We're almost at a
Oh, come
54% winning
on.
percentage.
Dude. Oh, jeez.
But what do you think of the season so far in totality? There's been ups and downs, but what do you think, bro?
Going into the season, I would not have been surprised if the Mariners won 100 games. I also would not have been surprised if the Mariners won 60.
Mm.
It was, um, it was a bit of an uneven off season. It was a bit of a kind of unknown going into the season. We made some moves. Um, Nothing spectacular. Now, let's be fair. Aside from Otani, there wasn't really much spectacular on the market this year. It was one of those years. It wasn't like a couple years ago where every stud shortstop was on the market. Overall, if you would have told me May 12th we're in first place, I probably would have attempted to do a cartwheel and probably hurt myself in the process. Look, have we hit great? Gosh, no. Our pitching has basically carried us. We have had good offensive games. I was really happy to see Mitch Garver have a good game today. real. He's kind of one of those. You have those people you just kind of root for. You have the new players you just kind of root for. Kind of rooting for Mitch Garver. Like he had a good game. He had a homer. Drove in Dylan Moore in the first. He seems like he's along the Julio where he's starting to get a little warmer. He's starting to get a little hot. Mitch Haniger, I'm not really sure what I expected of Mitch Haniger this year.
Hmm.
Love him, but he's at the point where on the old MLB and NFL video games, you put the Band-Aid next to his name because it's injury prone. Like, I'm just not sure because he is an absolute stud when he's healthy. Polanco, he's played some great defense. He seems like he's coming on also. He seems like he's hitting hard. The strikeouts are incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of when we spoke last year and we were number 2 in the league in strikeouts. Hey, guess what? Let's overachieve. Now we're number 1. And we got rid of the guys who struck out the most. So, yeah. The and the frustrating thing is we got guys who are not playing up to their baseball card, which is a very common sentence for a Mariners fan, unfortunately. Julio's striking out a good amount. Ty France is striking out more than he used to. Polanco's striking out more than he used to. Like, I don't. And the good thing is, it's a long season. I don't think it will keep this way. Right now, we are on pace to break the record the Twins set. I think what was last year? It was last year or 2 years ago? They set the. We're on pace to break it by like 50. We're on pace, we're on pace to break it by like a good amount.
Oh boy.
And that's why as a guy who loves contact and who just loves to keep the pressure on and loves a route. Don't get me wrong, I love a 3-run home run. I love a grand slam. But again, it feels like it's demoralizing when 5 guys get a hit and you get 3 or 4 runs out of it, where you're just going, son of a gun. It doesn't matter where I throw them; they're
Mm.
tagging it. Whereas if it's a walk that kind of halfway misses, a bloop single and a 3-run blast, it's like, okay, I can explain these away. Okay. But when you have 5 guys in a row tag you, it's like, oh crap. So I would like to see the strikeouts come down. I think there is a little bit of pressure on Jerry because that's been his moniker. They tried to solve it. At this point, it hasn't reaped the benefits.
Mm.
It's still early, it's a month and a half, but overall, I'm still going to come back to overall. If you would have told me we're in first place right now, cartwheels. Like
Yeah.
you're kidding me. It's after a month in the season, we're still in first. Cool.
Well, we're Mariners fans. We've seen so many down years. It's like I always say, it's not easy being a Mariners fan. You gotta
No.
really love this team to stick with these dudes, and that's what we do, man. That's what we do. I'm not gonna front at all. I love me some Seattle Mariners, but as Seattle sports fans, we don't
Mm,
want these years where we're just kind of it's like having a banana before dinner. Can it just hold me over till dinner is ready?
yeah.
Like we don't want the Mariners to just hold us over until football starts. I want to be gung
Oh,
ho
good
about the
one.
Mariners while football is going on. Now that's when it's really really fun. Mitch Haniger, he's down to 203. He's
Oh,
struggling. He's struggling.
full admission.
So
Full admission. I didn't have the courage to look. I didn't. I didn't want to look because I can't do it.
I'm also a huge fan. I'm
Mm,
with you. But not only do we want these guys to perform,
mm,
we need them to perform. Now there is a there feels like there's several elephant in the room when we're talking Mariners lineup right now.
mm.
So you mentioned something off air that I'm gonna bring up right now, and
Okay.
I'm just gonna ask you. point blank.
Hmm.
Ty France give you enough production for a first baseman?
Initial gut, no. However, I think I am looking for the days of the big. I wrote down first base. Where are the big dogs?
Mm.
Where is Jim Thome? Where is Frank Thomas? Where is Derek Lee? Where is Ryan Howard? Where are the big dogs? Where are the first basemen who are big targets, athletic enough where they put their foot on that bag, can field, and then when they come up, it's like, oh, there are they just don't feel like they exist right now. I know there's a handful. I know Freddie Freeman's been doing it a while. Awesome. Paul Goldschmidt been doing it a while. Now, what I found interesting is I just pulled up the top 100 MLB prospects, and I was looking through it earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, who's coming up as a first baseman? Everyone coming up, it feels like stud pitchers, which every team needs stud pitchers. Stud pitchers is offensive linemen. You can never have enough. You
Yeah.
need every pitcher you can get, which is why I am very happy they did not deal any of our pitchers in the offseason. Granted, that does mean you got no return, but okay. Anyway, so the first one that comes up was Samuel Baseo from Baltimore, number 14, and it was catcher slash first base. So it's not even a true first baseman. And this is the top 100. The first one's Jackson Holiday, came up, struggled a little bit. I'm sure he'll be fine. Paul Skeens made his debut already. I'm sure he'll be great. Had an okay outing. The first baseman you get to is 14, but it's a slash. It's a catcher. So, which means who knows? I mean, and then at 21, you got another Baltimore Oriole, third base slash first base,
Hmm.
both Baltimore. Man, they're killing it. So keep scanning down. You don't get to a true first baseman who's only listed as a first baseman until number 36. Which I can't help but wonder, and I think this goes back to Ty, when we were kids, it felt like every team had a just stud first base. Even when we had Tino, John
Oh
Olerud.
yeah. Oh
No,
yeah.
they weren't Frank Thomas, but you weren't gonna get them out. They'd hit, between 20 and 30 home runs, good average. They, 4, 5, 6 hitter. They were gonna be a problem. It doesn't feel like it almost feels like the first baseman has gone the route of the NFL running back where it's gotten devalued. And I wonder if the Moneyball view on Major League statistics have kind of led to that. And also, it feels like we have much more pure athletes playing baseball than we used to. Let's
Yeah.
be fair, back in our day, David Wells was not exactly an athlete. And I remember watching guys like Torrey Hunter or Andrew McCutcheon, a little while, and I was like, man, these guys can run. They could just do everything. Torrey Hunter, well, I mean, after Griffey left, it was one of those. I think we got spoiled with Griffey, obviously, and then Mike Cameron,
Mhm.
just pure athletes, and then watching guys from other teams. But it was kind of a short list, and now it feels like there's a lot of pure athletes. Pure athletes are not going to play first base because at first base, the perception is you stand there and you hit. You're a
Mhm.
glorified DH, and I don't agree with that. But as much as I don't think Ty France has given us enough, who else is out there? That's the other problem. It's almost feels like it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Oh,
I know we
absolutely.
have I know we have a double A guy. What was it, Locklear?
Yep.
When you bring him up, you better be sure. Don't do it too early.
Mhm.
Is Ty France giving you enough? No. Would mm, unless you can somehow get Pete Alonso, I think he might be the only one that might be available on the trade market this year. looking through the list, I don't really see anybody else that's even worth kind of, everyone's got their people they like. I mean, would you trade Emerson Hancock with Ty France for Pete Alonso? I
That's
know
the
we have high.
rumor. That's the rumor.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I know
would.
we have five. Oh, trading pitching.
And you want
Trading
to know what
pitching.
makes it tough for me too is
Yeah,
Pete Alonso is going to be a rental, and so I was
true.
banging the table this offseason. Trade for Juan Soto. I don't give a shit if he's a
Yeah,
rental. I don't give a shit if he's a rental.
yeah.
And I have this comparison, dude, and you could vouch for it because you live in the Pacific Northwest. The Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and it didn't matter what they did for the next 10 years because
Yeah,
they won the Super Bowl. If the
true.
Mariners won the World Series, they'd probably get 20 years of grace, man. Seriously, because everyone would be so happy. We'd just be thinking, oh, we still talk about 1995 like it was yesterday.
Yeah,
And my sister's over 30 and she was 4 years old during that season. We got to come to the realization of what this is right now. Now, you talk about Tyler Locklear, who I have been high on. I love this dude. 295 with a 919 OPS. But you're right, that's in double
good
A,
spring.
bro. And you just mentioned Jackson Holiday, who was the number one prospect in baseball. That guy couldn't even hit 100 on
No,
his first trip up and got sent down. Alex Rodriguez might be the most talented young baseball player I've ever seen. It's him and Griffey neck and neck.
yeah,
And that guy took him what 200 or 300 at bats to figure it out. And there's no way that we could even put Tyler Locklear in the same galaxy as an A Rod or a Griffey. So that's just
no.
a huge ask. Because I'm with you. Where would
Mm,
we be if we didn't have that sixth young starter right now? We might be screwed. We might be thinking about selling already for all we know. So you're so right about starting pitching depth, and we haven't even been injured this year. I think that you really want to be like 8 to 10 deep in terms of your AAA, Double A, and major leagues. Excuse me, just because you got to plan for the worst. And speaking of planning for the worst, Matt Brass just had Tommy John surgery this week.
ah, yeah.
Gregory Santos just got pushed back to July return date at very best. Like, this is how delicate of a line and how thin the ice is when it comes to a pitching staff. Because before these arm struggles for Brash and Santos, I was saying, y'all ain't even going to want to mess with us. We're playing 7 inning baseball with our bullpen. Now, two of our best high leverage guys are out. Knock on wood, our starters can stay healthy. I know that we always criticize the way pitchers' arms are babied nowadays. But the
Yeah.
Mariners' track record for injuries kind of speaks for itself, and they're going all out, max effort every pitch. I heard John Smoltz he is obviously the top analyst, does the World Series games now. Even the great Hall of Famer John Smoltz said he didn't do max effort every pitch when he was kicking ass and taking names. They just run a baseball team differently nowadays. So, I mean, I guess we just got to kind of put that in perspective that guys like Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, those are the ultimate outliers. Don't bring
Yeah.
those names up when we talk about arm preservation because those guys are different animals. We got to protect our arms. You are so right on the commodities that they are. I mean, if you don't have a good O line, your offense is going to suck. If you
Mm,
don't have a good starting pitching staff, your team is going to suck.
yeah.
And I couldn't agree with you more on that. So, Eric, I'm looking
Mm,
ahead just the next 3 series. It's going to be tough. We have Kansas City coming to Seattle for 3 games, and then we go on a 3 series Northeast trip at Baltimore, at New York, and at the Nationals. Kansas City, Baltimore, and New York are all well above 500. Baltimore and New York might be the two best teams in the American League right now. I was
Yeah.
looking up that average exit velo I've been talking about to try to predict guys that are hitting the ball but maybe not getting the luck. The two highest average exit velo players in baseball right now are Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. So let's watch out here. That shit ain't fair, man. That's like having
Oh
Griffey and Edgar
gosh.
back to back. But I guess my question is just give me an outlook on the season going forward. And basically, what I was pointing at, our next three series are going to be really tough ones where our guys are going to need to be up to the challenge.
Man, okay, so the first one is I want you to keep you on track. First one's the Royals, right? First one's Kansas City.
Roy- Royals at home.
Royals at home. When did the Royals become so scrappy? Like it's one of those teams that you're weirdly proud of, kind of like the A's. You're like, yeah, you had your World Series win. Still jealous. When did they? Good on them. They've had a great home record. They're 10-9 away, so hopefully you can take a little bit of advantage. I really hope our bats can. I don't need them to have 15 runs. Timely and consistent. Get some consistent contact. I'm good with you hitting it hard. If it's, second baseman, shortstop makes a spectacular play, okay. I'm really curious how Miller and Wu will do. Miller coming, well, actually, you know what? After the starts they've had, Kirby and Logan also, they haven't gotten knocked around like that in a while.
Yep.
Minnesota knocked them around. I mean, Kirby has what was the one I was reading? Kirby has Maddox control plus 6 miles an hour.
Mm.
I mean, it was a debate. Will Kirby have more walks or starts this year? I,
So
the last
here's
couple.
my thing, dude.
Hmm,
I just want to interject really quickly because I've been thinking about this. So you step inside the batter's box,
hmm,
and there's a comfortability when you're in there if you know the guy has great command.
hmm,
Now, Kirby has such exceptional command. And I
yeah,
say command, he doesn't have control. He has
man.
exceptional command. It's time for him to be what I call intentionally wild because we know he can bring it back. You have to put the fear of God into the hitter when they're at the dish. Not all teams can do this. Not all lineups have the capabilities of swinging so early in the counts and making it work out for them in an effective way to score runs against Kirby. In fact, I think it's only happened twice this year. But when
Hmm.
he's gotten roughed up, it's the Twins and the Twins and the Guardians.
No, you were right the
I
first time.
mean,
Sorry.
but they're swinging early in the counts and they're getting him. I want Kirby to be intentionally wild and buzz the tower of a couple of dudes. Let them
Ooh,
know that you can't just dig in here. And I'm not going to suggest this for every pitcher because not every
no,
pitcher
yeah.
I have like the extreme confidence in that he can dial it right back in. We know Kirby is so exceptional with his command that I want him to be intentionally wild now just a few times in a few key spots, especially early in the game. Let them know that this is my diamond, not yours. And just your thoughts on that would be my coaching suggestion. Even I
I
shouldn't
feel
make
like
anything up.
I feel like Kirby needs I hope you remember this. He needs a Don Wakamatsu Felix Hernandez moment. You know what I mean? Walk called Felix out. It's like, you're better than this, dude. Because he had a couple starts where he looked pretty average. And then all of a sudden, he goes on a stretch of like 10 games, 7 runs, one earned or no earned. And of course, that's when we were maybe scoring 1 run a game. But all of a sudden, Felix flipped a switch and he was untouchable. I feel like Kirby almost needs a little bit of, okay, you have the command, you have the control. Now it's time for you to be a bit of a bulldog. And
Yeah.
pardon, you need to be a little, you know, Buzz the Tower. You need to be a little bit of an asshole. You need
Yeah.
to kind of like get in there and be like, no, mine. He's got the stuff. He can do it. It's that next step because he takes that next step. Sorry, Castillo, you're starting game two.
Mm.
If Kirby can do what his stuff looks like and what we think he's capable of, he's going to take control of the rotation. Which, oh my gosh, would that be amazing? And then the next series was it New York, right, or was Washington second?
Oh,
I didn't
so
have it
then
pulled up.
after that, it's at Baltimore and at New York. At
Oh, at
Baltimore
Baltimore,
and at
New
New
York.
York.
Oh, Baltimore. Oh man, they give oh, their splits away and home doesn't matter. They win.
Mm.
They have such a good young lineup and the frustrating thing is when I go back to that top 100, they still have, let's see, one, two, three in the top 20. And then you go to number 23, whatever they've done, it almost feels like they're trying to be the modern day Houston Astros. Now, this is obviously before the cheating scandal, all the stuff.
Yeah.
When Houston lost 100 plus for 3, 4 years in a row, drafted wonderfully. They did. I mean, they drafted great. They traded great. They got the right prospects, and then it led to 7, 8 years of success. Baltimore feels like they are going to be a problem. Now, I loved the way we played against Atlanta. I mean, you got studs, but Acuna is having a rough year. He's having a rough start. And I know going back to, I know we have Julio's having a rough start. So is Acuna. So is Bregman. There's a lot of guys having rough starts. The Orioles, that at Baltimore, man, if you could take that series, that'd be great. But I mean, Baltimore and New York back to back, that's going to be tricky. I mean, even New York's felt like they've woken up a little bit. Again, same thing, splits away from home and away, well over 500.
Yep.
They're winning no matter where they travel, and that's where the Mariners splits are. They're 9-10 away, 13-9 at home. So we definitely win a little bit more at home. I know the Minnesota trip had a little bit to do with that. The Orioles and Yankees. I want to see us do. You remember when we played Houston in the playoffs and we lost 3 games to nothing, but that might have been the hardest fought tooth and nail 3 games to nothing series I'd ever seen. Like
Yeah.
they got nothing easy. If we lose these series against, well, shoot, I guess all 3 teams because the Royals are just scrappy as well. If we lose these series, if we are able to take a game from each, now of course I want us to win the series, but if we don't get just smoked like we did against Minnesota on that day game, where it was just not even competitive, if we make it hard on them, that's at least unfortunately that's a step in the right direction.
Hmm.
If we give them problems, if we lose 4-3, 5-4, and it comes down to the last out, they have to use their bullpen. They have to dig deep in their bench. They have to just concentrate. And it's not, you know, 7-1 in the sixth. Like, oh, we can just cruise control it. No, I want it to be hard on these teams. That doesn't always translate to wins and losses in this game, but I do want it to be hard. If we can be hard on them, I think be a tough out. I think that would be a step in the right direction.
And I'm here to say we'll do it. I
I
I
think so.
just it's gonna be tough, but you know what? This is Major League freaking baseball. You're
Mm.
gonna have tough series, but you're right. We beat the Braves. We beat the Rangers. We can beat these good teams. We just have to play our brand of baseball. And
Mm.
obviously, the bats need to wake up. But you know what? The bottom line is, my oh my, it's another sports podcast. And resting up in heaven, Dave Niehaus would tell us, "Have no fear. The Mariners are here." And we're coming to do some damage. It's not sexy. There's a lot of warts so far, but you said it, man. We're in first place a quarter
Mm.
of the way through the season. I always say that just make sure you get to 25 and 25. Would I like to be 30
Oh
and
yeah.
20, 50 games in? Of course, I want to be 30 and 20. But just make sure you get to 25 and 25 and you give yourself a chance for the last 112 games. I'm pumped though, man. I'm pumped.
Mm.
And I think the huge thing is because as sports fans in general, especially Mariners fans, there's so much about this team that we've been critical about, but we're still standing in first place. I don't think we've seen the best baseball out of this team at all.
No,
We can,
not at
if we
all.
can just get our veteran hitters to, like you said, can they just get close to their baseball card? We just need some solid production. Right now, we're getting terrible production out of some of these guys. Just give me some solid production, man, and we're going to do some damage. I'll take this pitching staff over any pitching staff in baseball right now. Just get to the damn playoffs, man. Get to these short series, and we're going to put the fear of God into some of these teams, but it's going to start by taking care of business against Kansas City this week and a
Mhm.
really tough Northeast road trip. But you know what? The hell with the Yankees. The hell with the Baltimore Orioles.
Yankees.
Man, keep your East Coast bias out there. We rep the Mariners around here. We don't care if y'all forgot about us every single year. We don't care that we missed the playoffs for over 2 decades. That was then, this is now, bro. And I feel this team is going to shock some people that don't know what's going on up here in this Northwest cocoon.
Mm. Well said. Well said, sir. I am very much hoping. Yeah, I'm tired of the East Coast biased. I'm absolutely tired of it. I'm tired of feeling like we live in Southeast Alaska, and I'm very hopeful that Julio does have a turnaround because unfortunately, I mean, we've seen it with the Seahawks. We need some big personalities and some big stars to get a little bit of attention on us in this part of the country. We have to travel more than I think any other MLB team.
Oh, it's not even
Uh,
close.
yeah, and it's just geographic. I mean, the closest is California. It is what it is. But then you have two in Texas. It's you know, and that's your division. And it kind of feels like the we're kind of the AFC South of the MLB right now. No one really wants it. No, but again, it's only May. Thank goodness that Houston has had so many pitching problems. And you know, you brought up a good point when the Mariners have not had as many. Yeah, Matt Brash went down. That's just frustrating. We have had relievers go down. Wu had a little bit. Man, I play fantasy baseball. Shane Bieber out. And I think I've had five pitchers on the IL 15 day, which IL 15 day is a load of garbage. That means they're out at least a month, if not more. The pitching injuries are very prevalent. And I
Mhm.
think it does have something to do with so much specialization, so much torque on the arm. And like I said, John Smoltz even says like we weren't trying to throw 99.9% every pitch. It just wasn't. You got to manage yourself. I mean, Greg Maddox was the master of
Mhm.
complete game, 90 pitches. Like, it's like, how the heck did you do that? I really hope that Julio can kind of get back because he is the personality. As much as I love Cal and what he's been doing, Griffey was the attraction. Edgar was not the attraction. Unfortunately, it's reality. Ichiro was the attraction in 2001. I mean, we remember Booney and Edgar and Olerud, and even with the relief pitchers, with Brash going down, we remember Nelson and Rhodes and Sasaki. We want that seventh, eighth, ninth where it's just like, we just got to get to the seventh and y'all are done. Unfortunately, with everyone throwing gas, that Minnesota closer during, oh my goodness, I did not like enjoying how much he was watching him. That was some of the nastiest pitches. Just how did they find this cat? Their closer was just insane to watch. Hopefully, I got high hopes for the road trip, and I want us to be hard to play against. I guess is what
Yeah.
it kind of boils down to. I want us to be hard to be played against.
Yeah, you want to be that thorn in the ass type of team.
Mm.
You really want to be that thorn in the ass, piss and vinegar type of attitude. Where's Lou Pinella at? That's that shit we want. And when it comes to our pitching staff too, I get so deep into the stats sometimes, but me and RG both love to say our pitchers got that shit that you can't touch, and I want them to
Mm-hmm.
come out feeling that way. And just a quick stat in regards to the arm injuries you were just talking about. This shit's
Mm.
so crazy, bro. So in the year 2023, there were more Tommy John surgeries in baseball than the entire 1990s put together.
Come on. So what? My question is, where's the problem? If Nolan Ryan could do what he did, and all these guys back in the day did what they did, like this, specializing in one thing almost feels like it's becoming a bit of a problem. Now I know guys can come back from Tommy John and they're better than ever. It doesn't. It almost feels like a pitcher has to go through Tommy John at this point. That shouldn't be the case.
Mhm, mhm.
Hmm.
That's going so far into baseball because I like our at our ages we're so far removed
Hmm.
from little league, junior
Yeah.
high, high school. At least part of my thinking, but I don't really know. This is just a hypothesis. Is that young men and teenagers, etc., kids are throwing too hard, too early, and it's just extrapolating the stress on their arm long term down the road. If they're talented enough to make it to college, make it to the pros, they've been damaging their arm for a longer time, and maybe that's part of the root cause. Part of it's just the all out pitching style. And then part of it might just be that doctors notice things more. Like the more
Oh, yeah.
advanced the medical science gets in terms of the pitchers and the arms, I think maybe the doctors are just finding things in these arms more where maybe decades ago, and especially going to our parents and our grandparents' era, you just have a dead arm. You're screwed. Sorry, bud. So part of it might just be medical advances as well.
I do have one theory also that is, I'll say it's an unfortunate theory where you have a kid who's a very good athlete and they can play at the advanced level in what they do: baseball, football, basketball. Well, let's be, the world is the world. The parents can only afford one, pick one. I don't like to say it out loud, but sports for youth cost a lot
Yep.
nowadays, and it's pretty frustrating. But I can see that being a issue also, where it's like you're a great athlete, you can play rec ball. Like I purposely never did any of the specialty because I wanted to play all seasons and have as much fun as possible. Because I was
Yep.
also very aware that there was always someone better than me. I could keep up
Hmm.
with them. There was always someone better than me, but I have fun. I, but when you have some of these elite kids who are pretty noticeably above and beyond, and when the parents say, "Well, you can specialize in one, you can't specialize in all three. We just can't afford that." And now that these seasons are year round, which is still a little frightening, pick one. I can't help but wonder if that plays into the arm injuries because they've put a lot more strain on it at a much younger age than if you were just kind of playing to have fun, if you're playing the true
Yep.
kids game. you know,
That's
it's just a
interesting.
theory. Yeah.
Well, that our era is just like you said, you played sports with the seasons. You play football
Yeah.
and soccer in the fall. You
Yep.
play basketball in the winter. You play baseball in the spring and summer. And it's kind of like
100%.
you're saying though, like if you're into football, you don't just you don't you know you're doing 7-on-7 and spring leagues and shit like that. If you're playing baseball, you're on travel teams. You're going all over the tournaments.
Yeah.
Like even the best ball players at any given sport weren't necessarily like playing like that. And so
Mm.
I just that's a really good point. And part of it is an era thing. Part of it might be like you were talking about the expense of sports. What about the expense of college nowadays? Like if you could find any
Ooh.
way as a parent to offset the cost of college for your kid, you need to take advantage of that. So there's a ton of different factors, and I just want to be on the record. I'm all for specialization. Do whatever you want to do or what you want to play, etc. But I'm glad that we were born in the era where you just kind of played the sport in the season.
That's interesting because I'm I'm all for do what you want to do. I definitely don't think kids should specialize because we've seen Russell Wilson have the success he had. He was a baseball player. He got drafted even. We've seen Patrick Mahomes, and we've seen, oh man, what was that defensive end from North Carolina?
Peppers.
Oh, I forget. Thank you. Yes, he played. I remember him playing for North Carolina basketball.
Mhm.
And there's been so many guys. It feels like it works a different part of maybe even your brain. Not sure about that, but different muscles, especially.
Mhm.
I definitely, I don't like to see a 7-year-old specialized. If you're going to
Mhm.
specialize when you get closer to high school age, you know, and this is just personal opinion, of course, I would like to see you do as many different things as possible. And now, if you want to specialize, if you have the opportunity to and you talent to, okay, yes, of course. I would still encourage kids to do as many different things as possible. Experience it, work different muscles, work different part of your brains, work your lateral as a, don't do the same thing every day. Shoot, with our jobs, our bodies have gotten used to what we do every day. And then if we try to do what we did in high school, we would die
Mhm.
because our bodies are not used to it anymore. So that's kind of why I'm a very big do a lot of different things. If you want to specialize, you'll have time. And I guess that's my best. You'll have time to specialize.
Amen. Amen. Well, that's kind of a perfect little segue here because in
Mm.
just a minute on my oh my, it's another sports podcast. Our amazing producer Indy from Nashville on the ones and twos. He's going to join us in just a minute here, and we're going to dive a little bit into the Seahawks rookie camp and draft picks, and we'll discuss just a little bit about what we can hopefully expect for these young bucks. Yes, I want to give a huge shout out to RG. I know he's talking shit right now about our beloved Seahawks, but my oh my, we'll bring Indy in here in just a minute. Do it. Oh my, it's another sports podcast. We don't have my main man RG to be talking shit about our beloved Seahawks right now. But since we have a fellow 12 in here and my friend Erik Neal, we brought in Indy, our unbelievable producer on the ones and twos, doing damage like always. I'm going to pass it to you in the low block first, Indy. We touched on this earlier, but we have Erik in here and he's got some knowledge on the situation. Just tell me a little bit about what you think any of these draft picks could do to help out the team in this upcoming season.
Well, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and skip Byron Murphy the second because I think we all know what we should expect from him, and that's a disruptive force in the pass rush up the middle. I mean, he led the FBS or tied with Brandon Dorlus in the FBS for pressures. You know, he's a beast. Side note, Brandon Dorlus played high school football for a year with my brother. So in Calvary
Oh, wow.
Calvary Christian School, Calvary Chapel Christian School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So, congrats to him going from, you know, a scrawny guy that couldn't make the roster to an NFL draft pick and a pretty accomplished college defensive lineman. It's pretty cool. But I think the most intriguing pick to me is one that I wasn't exactly the most thrilled about when it happened, just because I wasn't educated on who this guy was. But the linebacker out of UTEP, Tyrese Knight, I think that pick intrigues me a lot, honestly, because we have 2 1-year rentals projected to be starters at the linebacker positions. And we potentially have one of their replacements already before they even took a snap for us. So that could be huge right out the gate for us. And the way this guy sees the field and with the speed that he diagnoses what's going on and then just attacks the ball, it's like an animal, honestly. It's uncanny. That dude is quick. It's like he just turns off his brain and it's all instinct. And it's exciting. It's exciting, man. I'm excited to see that guy in a Seahawks uniform. And we're going to need guys that know how to get to the ball, especially with running backs like Blake Corum being drafted into our division. That's going to be brutal. But I think that Knight's going to have a unique role in the defense early on. I think Mike McDonald is huge, like extremely high on this guy, like extremely high. I think this was a majority Mike McDonald pick here. And I'm excited to see how that translates onto the field.
Anybody pique your interest over there, Erik?
Well, Aaron Murphy, I love the line. I won't say too much about him, but yeah, he should be a disruptive force. When I heard one of the analysts compare him to Aaron Donald, I mean, tingles. I hope he is what we hope he is, if that makes any sense. One of the ones I'm kind of most intrigued with is the guard out of UConn, Christian Haynes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I kind of want him to solidify maybe the right guard, but I think maybe a bigger positional question, at least for me, is who's our center? Is it Olu? I'm just going to call him Olu because I can't pronounce his last name. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
When you have a stud center, it feels like it kind of calms the rest of the line. It calms your quarterback and it kind of solidifies everything. It is the glue. Anyone can put bricks down. Can you put the mortar in between? Can you? And I'm kind of looking at our roster and I'm like, is it Olu? He played a little bit. And then I wonder, are they going to put Christian Haynes there? I've heard that they might try him there, so that's the only reason I'm coming up with that. I'm very curious. Christian Haynes is a very big. I love the line because it's one of those. Without the line, everything else just falls apart. I mean, how many times do we see Russell Wilson after the Super Bowl year take 2 steps back and Aaron Donald's just smiling in his face? Hi. It just too many times. With that, and it feels like if you can disrupt both offense and defense, if you can control the line of scrimmage, if you can just be a disruptive force, which is why Byron Murphy, please, and Haynes, like I'm very, very curious about Haynes. He is. I'm going to be watching him during the mini camps, during the OTAs, during everything, because if we can solidify that line, I mean, let's be fair. Almost, it feels like I know the year we won the Super Bowl, we had the best offensive line. Even when you go back to the NCAA, which has its own problems, different podcast. But Michigan and Washington, they were the two best offensive lines. If you have the line, you don't necessarily. I mean, the question of Geno comes up. Well, you've had quarterbacks who weren't the best quarterback in the league do great, and of course, you go back to Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson with those teams. I
Nick
really want the
Foles.
line to be solidified, and I'm curious. Center is the one I'm going to be watching the most. Greg Haynes, how do they use him? Olu's is only his second year. Is he our center? Oh, we'll see.
I'm organizationally they want it to be Olu. There's no
I think
question
so.
about that. It
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. And honestly, I really hope it's him too, just from the standpoint that it feels since we traded Max Unger, we've been getting 1 year band-aids at center for almost a decade now. And so it would be really nice from a team standpoint, like you were saying, having that center, the leader of the offensive line, to be a young player that can be with us for numerous seasons, because we've been putting a band-aid 1 year veteran in over and over and over again. And you said it, it's a crucial position, not even just from the physical standpoint, but like you said, the leadership and the knowledge is crucial. For me in the Seahawks draft, it was simple. I'm no draft analyst, but I do love college football. I do love NFL football. And it was all about fortifying the trenches, which both of you have kind of been getting at. We were fortifying the trenches. Byron Murphy, I just remember from that Sugar Bowl game against UW. UW was fantastic, but that guy was freaking awesome.
He
He was
was
the guy
everywhere.
that just jumped out. Like, I went to my brother's house and they had a few friends over for that game, and we're all just saying, "Who is that dude?" And so just stoked about that pick. And just from a value standpoint and looking at me wanting to fortify the trenches, just according to the ESPN prospect rankings I looked up right here, they have Haynes as the number one guard we got in the third round.
Oh,
That giant Polynesian from Utah, Laumea, they have as the fourth ranked guard we got in the beginning of the sixth. So if I
beginning of
told
6, yeah.
you we got the first ranked guard in the third and the fourth ranked guard in the sixth, I would be doing cartwheels, Indy. Just cartwheels. I don't know how good these guys are going to turn out, but just in terms of trying to fill positional needs and finding value in the draft, man, we're buying like a $800,000 house for like 700 when it comes to drafting these dudes, man.
Big time. And to switch it over to a not big boy position, DJ James, I consider a steal as well.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people project him third round, fourth round mainly, but I even saw him as high as the second. Like, and we got this guy in the sixth. I mean, I mentioned it before, that 4th and 31 against Alabama, being on the receiving end of that and being the one to give it up is never going to help your stock in the draft. But I mean, that can't be the only reason he fell that far. Like, he was one of the players that was drafted like furthest away from his projections in the entire draft. Like, a lot of people were wrong about him. We don't know why. The teams do. They know a lot more about that. We'll come to find out. But I'm excited about him. I think he has all the tools to make it at the next level, especially inside at that nickel position. He's got the, like, from what I've seen about him and looked into him, his fluidity in that side to side speed and the change of direction is there. It's just about learning how to utilize his hands and not getting antsy and jumping routes too early and shit like that. There's a lot of that he did, but I mean, all in all, that kid has every tool that you need to make it. The speed, the that side to side quickness in the NFL today as a nickel cornerback has never been more valuable. There is more speed in the NFL today than there has ever been. I mean, think about the Chiefs, the Dolphins, like the Ravens, the Cardinals, like all of these teams are built on speed. And we need guys to combat that. I mean, we got Woolen, who's a freak, Reek the freak out there, but can never have too much speed.
What do you think, Eric?
Reek Woolen, he's interesting. I'm curious because he had a great rookie year. He made the name change. I feel like Reek has been drinking his own Kool-Aid. I feel like he has been reading the hype and kind of believed it. Cornerback is going to be a very competitive room. We still have Kobe Bryant. We still have Trey Brown. Not the best, but Reek is. I want Reek to stop reading and start playing. I want him to come up and make a tackle and make a hit. I want him to come up and be aggressive. There's been a few too many times where it felt like he was making arm tackles or the Toro and just go. I want Reek. This feels like Reek's contract year. I don't know if it. I haven't looked. I don't know if it is, but this feels like his homie. You better prove to not just the Hawks, but the other teams that you're worth a contract. Because it really felt like you had a great rookie year. And yeah, you're fast, you can cover, but it feels like you do it when you want to. We need it every single play. So Reek is a curious case. I don't want to say that I'm down on him because that's not accurate. But he is one of the ones where I'm like, homie, you better bring it because you got new coaching staff to impress. These aren't the guys that drafted you. Remember when Pete Carroll came in, he cut his boy from USC, White. He cut Hushmanzada, who was making a bunch of money. Like, this is a different group of guys. And there's some guys that got drafted. Him, D.S. Eskridge. There's a couple guys like, you better show up. We'll see what happens, but you better show up. If you're going to make the name change, you better warrant the name change.
I fully expect a bounce back year from Woolen. And it's kind of what you said, because he was a fantastic rookie. There's no question he had a sophomore slump last year, no matter how you want to dissect it. And the talent is there. It's going to be interesting, too. I mean, we're going to see a completely different defensive scheme than we've seen for the last 12, 13, whatever years under Pete Carroll. So I'm kind of excited about that. I don't really know much about these late round cornerbacks from Auburn at all, but when Indy's talking about that lateral side to side quickness, that makes me very excited because Lord knows cornerback is a position for athletes. So, like, some positions I can handle being dumber than others, and I'm going to say cornerback's one of them. Can you cover this dude? Can you stick him? One thing I'm going to say about Reek is the best coaching thing Pete Carroll did last year was when he benched him. Because I think it's
100%.
Said, Eric. It was because he wasn't sticking his nose in there. You know what? If you get your ass run over, people respect that. Coaches respect that. Teammates respect that. But when you don't stick your nose in there, that's the issue. The best thing Pete Carroll did last season was benching him, letting him know that this is the NFL. Last year don't mean shit. It's about right now. Indy, any other thoughts here on Seahawks draftees, young players, guys you want to step up? I'm super excited about the year 3 players and the year 2 players as well. I think we have a nice young core going on here right now.
Well, absolutely. I'm extremely excited to see where this team goes over the next, 1 to 2 years. I mean, I honestly I expect us to be better this year than last year. I really do. I mean, it might be a little slow in the beginning getting used to new schemes on both sides of the ball. Like, there's growing pains, there's adjustments, there's all of this we're gonna have to go through as a franchise. But there's also, like, you can hear it in the way the players are talking. Like, they're excited. They are charged up and ready to get going. Like, there's an energy in the air over there, and like, it's showing. There's an excitement about football again. It's not just a party on the practice field. It's players are there to show up and be the best and to earn their spot and to prove that, like, like I've heard, like, they want to show out for Coach Mike. Like, they want to show out. They want to go prove that, their the head coach that's leading them wasn't a bad hire or whatever. Like, it's they're building a culture there and just like a family type vibe, if that makes sense. And I'm excited about it. But I do want to double back real fast back to Reek Woolen. And if you guys remember, in week 2, he suffered a shoulder injury.
Oh, yeah.
And like you guys were talking about arm tackling, you use your shoulder to effectively tackle.
Very true.
If you're playing out there, against guys that aren't exactly the easiest to tackle, some of these receivers are 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds and can run just as fast as him. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of these guys are huge brick walls that you got to tackle. So I would also like to just point out that he did suffer a shoulder injury. It's not an excuse, but I think that has as much to do with him taking a step back as him feeling himself a little too much, because it happens. You go from being someone that no one really knew who you were going into being drafted. You get drafted, and all of a sudden you're constantly being debated online everywhere as who's better, Sauce or Reek, Sauce or Reek, Sauce or Reek, for a whole year. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And like, it was supposed to be who's better, Sauce or Stingley, not Sauce or Woolen, So yeah, I can see it. I can see it getting to his head a little bit, but I'm not worried about him personally. I'm not worried about him. I think he'll be in a Seahawks uniform for at least another 5 seasons. And I think he'll be an effective cornerback for at least another 5 seasons. I think if he adds a little meat to his bones, that man he is a top 5 corner, in my opinion, when he plays like when he's not afraid to tackle. If you're not afraid to tackle, and this man is not afraid to get physical, good luck. Good luck throwing at him. I mean, he's the fastest player 6'4" or taller ever in the NFL. Ever.
Indy's got me excited.
Tariq,
man, I am a Reek stan. I will admit it. He's one of my favorite players on the team, just based off the freakish athleticism. That's why I was like a big fan of DK before he ever took a snap with the Seahawks. Like, you just can't deny, like, freakish athleticism typically translate.
You can't teach it.
You can't teach it, and it typically translates. If you can put that player in the right position, it's game over. If a coach knows how to utilize that type of athleticism, it's game over. That's why I'm excited to see how Grubb uses DK, and Kenneth Walker. Freaks. These guys are freak athletes.
Yeah.
I want to see how he, game plans and utilizes these guys, man. It's going to be sweet, because the way he was using those weapons at UW, now that gets me excited. Having a real offensive coordinator, one that adjusts in the game and, attacks other teams' game plans instead of playing to see how things are going to go. That's how it always felt with Shane Waldron or Darrell Bevel or bro. Yeah, we can just go down a long list of inept offensive coordinators, but I feel like we finally have one that's going to be gone in a few years, being a head coach somewhere else, unfortunately. But I think he's going to be that good, which is a good issue to have, I guess. My cat just broke into my office.
That's awesome.
All good. We love the furry friends on my It's Another Sports podcast. We love the furry friends. What's up, Eric? I see you thinking away over there.
Man, you got me excited about Reek. My question was, who do you guys think will take? I mean, with Ryan Grubb, which just gets me extremely excited. Who do you guys think will take the biggest step in this next year? One of the young kids. Who do you think is going to take the next step?
Jackson.
Thank you.
Eskridge.
Yes. Ooh. Really, sir? Oh, that'd be nice.
Say it again, Indy. I didn't catch that. What was that?
Eskridge.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, yes, exactly.
Okay.
I really do.
But
I really do. There's a reason he's still on the team.
Yeah.
Oh, good point.
There's a big reason he is still on this team. That coaching staff loves that guy.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to do the flip side of the coin, who do you think the surprise cut is going to be? I brought up Hushmanzada. He was a very big surprise cut. Who do you think the surprise cut might be?
Jaron Reed, maybe.
He was my contender. I'm going Darryl Taylor.
Oh, I don't like that either, man.
I don't either. But I could see it happening with a new staff.
Oh, but his skill set in Mike McDonald's defense is just a match made in heaven, man.
The Homer fan base will hate me, but cut Bobo 10 times out of 10 before you cut Reed or Taylor. I knew it. People gonna hate me for that shit.
Jake
Bobo.
Damn, dude, that cut.
That big white boy.
Why?
Well, at the same time.
Okay, so you guys are saying Taylor and Jay Reed. I want the edge rusher and the interior lineman.
Yeah, but typically the conversation's not going to be Jaron Reed or Jake Bobo, because Jake Bobo is going to be, it's going to be Jake Bobo or like Derek Young or Jake Bobo or any other. You feel me?
Fair. At the same time, Metcalf, Lockett, Smith, Eskridge,
and Jake Bobo.
Are you going to carry 4 or 5?
5.
Excuse me, 5 or 6.
Probably 5. But
probably 5.
But here's the thing with Bobo. Body's big enough to play tight end as well.
I love Bobo.
He's big enough to mix into sets. He has more rushing touchdowns than Eskridge, just be real. Or as many.
Oh boy.
He has 1. I don't know how many D has.
We're gonna circle back to this at the end of August. You'll be like, who was right?
Jake Bobo is gonna be on the motherfucking team, I'll tell you that. That's my guy. That's my offensive sleeper guy. He was last year too. Man, that dude. I mean, you go and draft a running back in Charbonnet, and his first words are "Get Bobo, go get Bobo." You know what I'm saying? Like that says something.
This episode.
Undrafted rookie made the teams. There's only a handful of guys that do that per team per year. So there's something to be said about that. I just want to come back a little bit to how excited I am to bring in Ryan Grubb. Do I care that he has an NFL coach? No, because I know that you guys have watched a lot of Seahawks and a lot of Huskies. Especially Eric for both those. There's no one that can convince me. Ryan Grubb's offense, albeit in college, he used more formations, he used more shifts, and he used more personnel groupings than I've ever seen the Seahawks use in the last 13 years. And another factor is the way they can find one-on-ones. Everybody in the entire country that likes college football knows they're trying to get to Roma Dunze. Everyone on the defensive staff and the defensive players on the field know they want to get it to Roma Dunze. And they still manage to scheme him one-on-ones all the time. I can't wait to see how many one-on-ones they can scheme up for a DK, Tyler, JSN, the tight end crew. And just one more tidbit before I pass the ball off here again. Everyone knows about the Huskies' high-flying passing attack, but Ryan Grubb was never afraid to take the matchup as he saw it, because I decided to bring this game up here on my computer to prove my point. USC, they had a decent pass defense. but their run defense was the weakness. You know what the high flying Huskies did? They ran the ball
It was
42 times for
yeah.
316 yards. Yes. Yes.
Remember that game?
Yes. Indy, you were saying, "Oh, just feel it out." Blah. Find the weakness and expose it, and I feel that's what we're
Exactly.
gonna do, baby.
Exactly. And dude, it's exciting because we have dealt with such a bland offensive. It's like the exciting part of our offense, what made it exciting and made it work with these bland offensive coordinators was Russell Wilson's ability to be a backyard scrambling quarterback and make magic happen as often as he did. But once that magic runs out, your coordinators are exposed. We have
I'm sure this.
no go ahead. No go ahead. No go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sure this happened to you guys. You brought up a couple of the offensive coordinators we had. I'm sure this happened to you guys when Joe Schmoes, like us, who were just fans, could predict what they were about to call, and then they did. It was like, wait a minute, if we can figure it out as just fans who are just, we have kids running around, we have life running around, and we knew what you were going to call. What's the guy getting paid $2 million on the other side of the fence going to really? So yes, Ryan Grubb, thank goodness. Sorry,
Thank
Andy.
God. Not. Yeah, exactly, dude. It's utterly embarrassing whenever your average football fan can predict the play that you're about to call at the professional level. It's embarrassing if a high school coach is calling plays that a fan can predict. Because if a fan can predict it, that high school coach across the sideline from you is going to be able to predict it just as well. There has to be, you have to mix it up. You can't, obviously you're confined to your playbook, but that doesn't mean you show everything at every game. It doesn't mean that you run the same thing every game. Each team that you're facing is different. I don't remember what game it was or what documentary I saw it on, but I heard Bill Belichick discussing a game plan for a game. I'm pretty sure it was against the Colts. They ran 5 sets on offense and 2 formations on defense. They hadn't run all year. They've been waiting to use against the Colts. We need coordinators that are thinking about this like a battle plan. And each week is a different enemy that has different strengths, different weaknesses. We have to figure out how to use what we have to keep them off guard, to keep them off balance, to keep pushing them back. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need to do, is to constantly be on the attack on both sides of the ball. And once we have that mentality and have the ability to do that, it's game over. It's game over. I mean, you think about the Patriots of the 2000s. A quarterback that could make anything happen at any given moment and a defense that was going to be insufferable. What'd they do? Win a fuck ton of Super Bowls.
So annoyingly
Why don't you have an
accurate.
opinion there, dude?
That's so annoyingly accurate. That's the thing. I mean, the Chiefs have gotten good over these last couple of years when they had a defense that just wasn't a sieve. They've always had the offense, but you have to have both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it back to the Mariners. You have to have both sides of the coin. You have. They don't. You need both. You can't just have one. You can't have a world beater on one and a sieve on the other. It just doesn't work. That's why I'm really hopeful that Byron Murphy will be oh my gosh, Aaron Donald like. I don't even want to say it out loud because that's talk about high hopes. Control the line of scrimmage. Can Geno Smith be a Super Bowl quarterback? Yeah, I don't know about that. Honestly, I'm not sure. But if you can control the line, facilitate. I don't like the term game manager. I think that's a little take the open pass because I'm sorry, those first 3 Super Bowls, Tom Brady, it's not like he was chucking it downfield all the time. He took what was there. I still remember when Phillip Rivers just beat us because he just kept doing 7-yard passes the entire game because that's what was there. It'd be just 20-17, whatever it was. I don't know if that's take what's there. Just And I think these guys are so highly skilled that they think they can make the miraculous play every single time. Sometimes take what's there, keep everything moving. You can't hit a 7-run home run. You can't do it. You got to keep the line moving. Baseball and football, same thing. Keep the line moving. Take what's there. Keep the chains moving. Keep the line rolling. Now just please go out and do it because we're Seattle fans. Oh.
Yeah.
Amen. Oh my, it's another sports podcast. These two have getting me chills right now. And we didn't even have football for another several months right now. Is
Oof.
there any closing arguments y'all would like to stamp on this thing right now?
Do I think Geno Smith is a quarterback that will win you a Super Bowl? I don't know. Is Geno Smith a quarterback that can be coached to a Super Bowl victory? I think he is. I think Geno Smith is a guy that is humble enough to be coached, to take what's there. And, you know, we had a quarterback for a while that wanted to make a miracle every play. We won a Super Bowl with that quarterback. So it's possible to win that way. Yes. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is that style of quarterback. He can make a miracle every play, but he has a balance. You know, if his first read's open, he'll take it. He won't just try to make more happen just to make more happen. You know, there's a balance. But I think Geno Smith is a quarterback that is humble enough, cerebral enough, and talented enough to be coached to a Super Bowl victory. And I don't think he's going to be signed to a team to be the guy to take them to the Super Bowl or to put them over the top. But he's going to be signed as a guy that will do his job, that will make the plays necessary, that will lead his team on and off the field. That's who Geno Smith is. And, you know, when we first turned the keys over to him after the Russ trade, I wasn't the most excited, but that dude has done nothing but prove people wrong. Since he started in Seattle, he has done nothing but prove people wrong. People said, Geno's your quarterback? Yeah, 5 wins, 4 wins. Good luck. Have fun with the Cardinals down there in the bottom. What happened? Playoffs. Next year wasn't exactly how everybody expected it to go. We expected it to be a little better, but what did we have on the other side of the field from him?
A strainer that you could run through. What were we last in the league in run defense?
Twice in a row? 2 years in a row?
Gosh. Yeah.
Terrible. But what gets me excited is the fact that we have so much talent to the point where we played such piss poor defense for so much of the last 2 years and we still have a winning record.
Good point.
Piss poor defense. Defense wins championships was the saying I heard my entire life. Our defense has been trash. If we can have, Tyler, you've said it many times, if we can field an average to a little bit above average defense, this team will go so much further. This team has a legitimate shot at winning a Super Bowl. Our offense has weapons at every level. Really does. If we can field an average to above average defense, who's going to stop us?
That's a really good point. Being able to be coached to a Super Bowl, that's a really good point. We had the guy who always wanted to make the spectacular play, and as soon as he wanted to make the spectacular play every time, they didn't sniff the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
It's a really good point.
Like, you want to put a stamp on this thing, bro?
So I guess my final will be Indy. Got me excited about Woolen and, Geno, the hopeful. Mariners, I guess my final stamp will be, how do I put this? You need to earn our business. And what I mean is they now have complete control over Root Sports. After this year, what is watching Mariner games going to be like? They have one of the highest revenues in all of MLB. I think they had 86 million, maybe a little bit more last year. I think they were, if I was reading it right, they were the highest revenue team, maybe second, but one of the highest revenue teams in MLB. I'll just say that. You're making money. Now, unfortunately, one of the reasons the Pac-12 dissolved is because they couldn't get a TV deal. And this kind of comes back to, will the TV deal that the Mariners get affect their ability to put a competitive team on the field? That's a lot of money in a TV deal nowadays. Is it going to be streaming? Are they going to do a deal with MLB? After 2024, it's a little hazy, and a lot of it was they're going to need more fan interaction. You want more fan interaction? You better earn it. Did you earn it this year? Ish. Like, they don't need to get the biggest free agent every year. That's not realistic. And there's been so many free agents that just don't pan out. I'm glad they didn't sign Chris Bryant. I mean, and of course there's guys I wanted them to sign that they didn't, that they've been studs. Simeon, his second base is a commodity. I hope that they are able to get a TV deal that provides a competitive team long term on field, because unfortunately, I think that TV deal might have something to do with the money they spend on field. So, you know what? We'll see what happens now that they have complete control over Root Sports.
Absolutely. And Erik, we're gonna have you on again later in the season because this topic won't go away. I think you and
No.
me could dive extremely deep into the weeds about Mariners ownership. We got so
Oof.
far into the team this year. We're gonna have a special just on the ownership aspect. And you're right, the best profit margin in all of baseball last year was for the Seattle Mariners.
Was it, Dust?
And
Yeah.
it was. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We show up and show out, man. And you know what? My oh my, it's another sports podcast, baby. I want to give a giant shout out to our co-host RG. We miss you. He brings some funk flavor and facts that nobody else can bring to the table. I want to give a giant shout out to super producer Indy out in Nashville. We cannot do it without him. He's the brains, the heart, the soul. He is everything to this show. And my friend Erik Neal, it was so great to have you on, bro. You are going to have to be a regular with us, and we have a lot of shit to talk once the football season starts. But right now, it's about Mariners baseball, baby. My oh my, it's another sports podcast on Tide Talks 24. Get at us, people. Take care, y'all.